It has been said that an appreciation for irony is the last intellectual gift to be developed. Irony, the gap between the apparent and the intended, a sense of meaning beyond the literal, an embrace of incongruity, is the summit of intellectual ability. And this morning, John's Gospel and I are going to see just how smart you are. Here is today's Gospel for this fifth Sunday of Lent. Now, among those who went up to worship at the festival were some Greeks. They came to Philip, said to him, "Sir, we wish to see Jesus." Philip went and told Andrew, and Andrew and Philip went and told Jesus. Jesus answered, "The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Very truly I tell you, unless a grain of wheat falls to the earth and dies, it remains just a single grain. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. Those who love their life lose it, and those who hate their life in this world will keep it for eternal life. Whoever serves me must follow me, and where I am, there will my servant be also. Whoever serves me, the Father will honor. Now my soul is troubled. What shall I say? Father, save me from this hour? No, it is for this reason that I have come to this hour. Father, glorify your name." Then a voice came from heaven, "I have glorified it. I will glorify it again." The crowd standing there heard it and said that it was thunder. Others said, "An angel has spoken to him." Jesus answered, "This voice has come for your sake, not for mine. Now is the judgment of this world. Now is the ruler of this world driven out. And when I am lifted up from the earth, I will draw all people unto myself." He said this to indicate what kind of death he would die. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. In Tom Wolfe's novel, The Bonfire of the Vanities, we are introduced to a man in his prime, a man at the peak, on the top, in control. Sherman McCoy has hit his stride. He likes to refer to himself as master of the universe. This is Sherman's hour. Then by chance, dialing his mistress from a payphone on the street, he mistakenly dials his own home. His wife answers. He calls her by his mistress's name. Disaster. Now is his hour. Now Sherman's chickens come home to roost. Now begins the painful unraveling of Sherman's empire. The story ends in a courtroom where Sherman is humiliated before the world. His great elevated hour of glory becomes, in 300 pages, Sherman's hour of degradation. An old Southern saying says, "The higher a monkey climbs up the ladder, the better you can see his derriere." Although that's not exactly how they say it. For many, the top of the ladder of success becomes the gibbet from which they hang. The hour of glory becomes the hour of doom. Oh, Tanya, we hardly knew you. When a person is high and lifted up, say, like on the podium at the Olympics, you can get a good view of the person. The world takes a look. When is your hour? When are you at your prime, hitting your stride, on top, high, lifted up? In January, I flew to Chicago. I was met at O'Hare Airport by a limousine. It took me, deposited me at a hotel. In the room, there were flowers and fruit. 7:30, I was escorted into a crowded hotel ballroom. 2,000 people were there gathered. There was a huge choir, an orchestra. In grand procession, I was led down to the podium. On my way, a woman reached out and she said, "I've come all the way from Sioux City to hear you. I just love your writing." I strode to the podium. I was high. I was lifted up 14 feet above the assembled crowd. I spoke. There was sustained applause. I was led back down, led out of the ballroom. On my way out, same woman comes up to me and looks at me with a look of amazement on her face, and she says, "Wait a minute, you're not Frederick Buechner." It was my hour. When is your hour? When is Jesus' hour? That's a pregnant phrase in the Gospel of John, my hour. The hour is come for the Son of Man to be glorified, announces Jesus. At last, we shall see his hour, his glory. We have waited these 40 days of Lent throughout the Gospel of John for his hour, his glorious hour. You remember back at the wedding at Cana of Galilee, John 2? When the wine runs out at the wedding and Mary pesters Jesus. You remember what Jesus answered? "Mama, leave me alone. It's not my hour." It wasn't his hour. After Jesus finished one of his lectures up at Jerusalem, the authorities were so incensed by what he said, they tried to bust him. But John says they failed because John says it wasn't his hour. The crowd there noted, this man has done so many things so miraculously, it's hard to believe that even the Messiah could do more. And such talk really got at the authorities, comparing this uneducated Galilean to the Messiah. His hour had not yet come. You couldn't look at him and see who he was. Again in the temple, Jesus dared to declare, "I and the Father are one. If you know me, you know the Father." They tried to arrest him for such talk, but John says his hour had not yet come. And now today, fifth Sunday of Lent, Jesus abruptly announces, the hour has now come. The hour has now come. The Son of Man shall be glorified. Now is the hour at last for Jesus to be lifted up. Now is the hour of glory. There'll be no more of this cat and mouse business, this infernal dubiousness about who Jesus really is that so infuriates throughout the Gospel of John. Now is his lifted up hour of glory. And it's about time. When Jesus raised dead Lazarus from the tomb, even Jesus' critics knew the whole world has gone after him. John's gospel is always down on the world. The world is a place of deceit, of constant opposition and misunderstanding of Jesus. But now you get to the 12th chapter, and now everybody's gone after him, even the Greeks. Kappa Sigs. Everybody now wants to see Jesus. It's his glory. At last, the whole world has become a Palm Sunday parade after Jesus. It is his hour. It is his hour. Jesus, who previously has been so coy about who he really is, now says the hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. And there, with the spotlight upon him, the whole world goes after him, even the Greeks. having given the most spectacular, miraculous performance of his life, the raising of Lazarus from the dead, high, gloriously acclaimed by popular, Jesus says, "Truly I say to you, unless a seed falls to the earth, it cannot bear fruit. If you love your life, you'll lose your life. But if you lose your life, you will eternally find your life." The hour is about to become the hour. Welcome back to the Gospel of John. The gospel of irony. Oh, the irony, how this glorious talk of exaltation is mingled with mention of the earth and death and loss. And we sense the irony, the bitter irony, which is the gospel. Jesus is just about to be high and lifted up. This lonely, scorned Galilean is about to be exalted by the world up to an elevation where we shall have a good view. A good view not only of Jesus, but also the world. We're about to see the world for what it really is. He's about to be lifted up on a cross. Some said it thundered when he spake it. Now is the judgment of this world. Now shall the ruler of this world be driven out. And when I am lifted up, oh, the bitter irony. In him is the world's day of judgment. His hour is our hour. Oh, you who devoutly believe that we are basically good. Oh, you who long to believe that we are making progress, that Bosnia is a temporary setback, that the UN is our best hope, that a BA degree and a BMW are morally neutral events, that there's nothing wrong with us that a few sessions of therapy couldn't cure. Look at this one whom we nail to the wood and lift over our ash-heap Golgotha. He is our judgment. This is our hour. Now is the judgment of this world, sometime between noon and 3, Good Friday. His cross, though it was made out of wood, becomes our mirror. In his cross we see ourselves. In his cross we get a good view of our religious best. This is really the best that the world can do, isn't it? His cross. Jesus had a way of bringing out the worst in us. His hour is our hour. Nevertheless, he said, when I am lifted up, I will draw all people unto myself. His cross is our stark mirror, our severe judgment, our reality check. Ironically, his cross is also our salvation, our life. His death is simultaneously his exaltation. We thought that we would lift him up by nailing him up. God raised him up. Oh, the irony of it. It's a mystery. How death leads to life. How our sin leads to our salvation. It's a mystery. About this time last week, I was living with some others from Duke in a little Honduran village. And in the morning, if you looked just over the mountain, you could see El Salvador, that troubled country. About this exact Sunday of the year, Archbishop Oscar Romero stood up at a Mass and he read today's Gospel from the Gospel of John, chapter 12. The hour is come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Unless a grain of wheat falls to the earth and dies, it remains only grain, but if it dies, it bears much fruit. In a short homily, Archbishop Romero said, "You've just heard the gospel of Christ from John's 12th chapter. That one must not love oneself so much as to avoid getting involved in the risk of life that history demands of us. That those who try to fend off danger will lose their lives. But whoever out of love for Christ gives himself in service of others will live, like the grain of wheat that dies, but it only apparently dies. If it didn't die, it would remain alone. Only in undoing itself does it produce harvest." Romero lived what he preached. The government of El Salvador, propped up by military contributions from our government, hated Romero for his outspoken solidarity with the poor. Just after he spoke those words, Archbishop Romero turned to the altar to proceed with the Mass. A shot rang out. Romero slumped to the floor just beneath a huge crucifix. Blood poured from his mouth and his nose, turning his white vestments, his purple stole, red. Romero died as he preached. Shortly before he died, he confided to a friend, "Sure, I have often been threatened with death. Nevertheless, as a Christian, I don't believe in death without resurrection. If they kill me, I shall rise in the Salvadoran people. If God accepts the sacrifice of my life, though I do not believe I am called to be a martyr, let my blood be seed of freedom. Let my death, if it is accepted by God, be for the liberation of my people and a witness of hope for the future. A bishop will die, but the church of God, which is the people of God, will rise from the earth." Oh, the irony. Unless a grain of wheat falls to the earth and dies, there is no new life. Unless you lose, you will not find. His death is our life, his cross our salvation, his hour our hour. He is lifted up, his arms embrace, and then like a magnet, like a great magnet, his cross draws all toward him. It's just as if out of some weird loving magnetism, the cross lifts us up out of the mire, out of the muck, pulling, drawing out of the alleyways and the subterranean depths, all, until everything is revealed and all are lifted up and drawn toward him in this act of cosmic redemption. I can't explain it. John can't explain it. We just step back and wonder. One final word of warning. We are entering the most sacred hour of the Christian year. Holy mysteries are about to be worked out among us. And you're going to feel, say, within the next 300 hours, a kind of tug, a kind of pull upon the soul, like a magnet. You'll see your life reflected in a mirror so truthful it pierces the soul. You'll want to turn away. You'll try to resist. You'll search for things to crowd out your weak. You'll want to run back toward the world, but you're going to fail. Because this is his hour. This is his hour when he shall be lifted up. Now all shall be drawn to him. Now he shall have his way with us. His hour is destined to be yours as well. Look, he is drawing you unto himself. It is his hour.